Good evening, and once again, welcome to Fired Up. I'm your host for the show, Bob Irwin. We are broadcasting from the studios of the American Guns and Glory Network here in Las Vegas, Nevada. This show is about guns, related political issues, and self-defense. Fired Up with Bob Irwin is on YouTube with a new show every Thursday at 5 p.m., which is what time it is now in Las Vegas. It stays up online forever. The audio feed is rebroadcast for radio listeners Saturdays at noon on the Nevada Talk Network. It is now around 14 radio stations broadcast simultaneously all over the state. You can check out www.kely1230.com for a station in your area. If you have questions or comments, send an email to bob@firedupmail.com or leave a message on my home office recorder, 702-257-1060. If you leave contact information, I will answer by email, text, or telephone. Questions directed to our guests will be forwarded to them for a response. However, tonight I'm flying solo. We don't have a guest. There are several hundred defensive uses of firearms every week in the United States, rarely covered by any mainstream media. So we always present a few for our listeners' education. Some are good shooting, some are bad shooting, some are questionable, but they're all educational if you own a firearm. If you keep one in your home for self-defense, or you carry one on the street concealed where you're allowed to, or where they allow you to do that, it's good advice. What I use things is want to put you in the position of the person involved, and you can see what he did right or wrong, or how he could have made it better. As Fired Up is a nationwide show where we use particular cases, they're always adjudicated by the local laws in that area. So when I talk to you about, well, this would be a good shooting or bad shooting, it may not apply in the state or town that you live in. Reasonable shootings in Nevada are rarely reasonable in New York City. Local law always prevails. If you need to find a criminal defense attorney to help you, we can do that. Again, send me a text or an email, and I'll direct you to a criminal defense attorney in your state that works on those types of cases. Our advice is intended to keep you safe, out of jail, and prevent losing everything you own in a civil lawsuit. So, with that, we're having an interesting time here. This is our first live broadcast where I've done this without a guest, which I find it pretty easy to play off the guest, because when I need to drink coffee or whatever, I can do that. A lot of news broadcasters do this by themselves. The first show I appeared on was a conservative talk show going back 40 years now, where the guy actually just had himself, and he looked straight it was radio. He looked straight at the microphone and talked for 3 hours to himself. It was amazing to watch. This first story comes from the Portland Press Herald in Maine, and was reported on September 18th of 18, a couple days ago. Police in Saco, Maine report on a case from September 30th, 2017, wow, has finally been resolved. This is a year-long investigation of a shooting that ends in a finding of self-defense. The Maine State Police say they will not prosecute the person who killed the New Hampshire man at home on Nye Street in September of 2017, saying the shooting was self-defense. Steve McCausland, a spokesman for the Maine Department of Public Safety, said the Maine State Police have a very good idea of how the fatal shooting transpired. State police now say the deceased, who was in town for work, went to the home looking for sex after answering a Craigslist advertisement. Where have we heard this before? McCausland would not provide further details, including on what led to the argument, how the gunman was involved. A deputy attorney general also declined to discuss the details, saying it was still subject to prosecution by local authorities when there's other things that could be charged under city and county statutes. The state said, not guilty, no problem. For months, friends and relatives puzzled over why the deceased, a 54-year-old computer network repairman, went to the duplex on Nye Street after 1 a.m. and ended up shot 3 times and killed. McLaughlin said the deceased arrived at the home and paid a woman inside $100, but the two did not have sex and an apparent argument erupted. The deceased then went outside to his truck, got a knife, and came back in. This is again quoting the Attorney General in the state. He was upset, had gone back to his vehicle, came back with a knife, and got into a confrontation with the woman. The man who resides in the home then fired at the intruder and shot him and killed him. Police have also declined to name the 43-year-old man who killed the knife wielder because he won't be prosecuted for the death, so they're leaving his name out of it. According to the police, the deceased was shot 3 times on the enclosed front porch of the home, including at least once in the head. The person who shot him then called 911 immediately after the death, after the shooting. While there won't be criminal charges for the fatal shooting, authorities could still press charges related to other aspects of the conduct that night. A neighbor described the shooter as a friendly firearms enthusiast who sometimes carried a holstered handgun as he mowed his own lawn in front. The deceased friends and family reeled with questions about what happened to the person they knew as a deeply devoted father and self-made businessman. One can understand that. Police told the deceased family that the shooter had come to police said the decedent's family told the decedent's family that the shooter had some kind of slash or knife injury to his arm, apparently supporting the finding of self-defense. In essence, it was self-defense. This is the state attorney general saying. Deputy Attorney General Lisa McLeish, who is the chief of the criminal division that would have prosecuted any homicide charges, said in an email that she could not comment on the details of the case because it is still being evaluated for other charges, but she agreed the shooting was self-defense. That's pretty tough. She said, in this particular case, it was determined that the person entered the home without license or privilege to do so, and deadly force was necessary in order to prevent the infliction of bodily injury in a dwelling place. That's wording from their statute. Marshish said that in the email, fortunately, these types of cases are rare. When the facts are clear-cut, the decision is made not to prosecute. There's a lot of information there, and we have several things going on here. A complex case. Apparently, the person wielding the knife misread or misunderstood the Craigslist ad. Apparently, the woman just did sit down and talk to people and try and straighten their problems out, a life coach type of thing, as near as I can tell. Instead of leaving when he didn't get what he wanted, he made the decision to use the knife to get even or get his money back. I'm not sure which happened there. The deceased family will never believe the results of the investigation, as families often don't. Kind of as usual in most shooting cases, everybody lost. As in most shooting incidents, we rarely does anybody win. Everybody loses, and we're stuck. We're going to break for just a second for a short word from one of our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Don't go away.
My name is Jerry Creed, and I'm a gun trust attorney. If you want to own an NFA firearm, a gun trust is a great way to own it because it allows multiple people to lawfully possess a firearm instead of just a single individual. I have reviewed lots of gun trusts, and I have found they often don't include the forms you need to bring people on as trustees and remove them as trustees. In addition, a gun trust will save you the cost of probate and avoid probate. and it can protect your executor and family members. You know, there isn't an element of intent in these laws that affect the NFA firearm possession. So it doesn't matter if your wife didn't intend to sell the gun at a garage sale or yard sale, or your daughter didn't intend to drive the car with the silencer in the trunk. A gun trust is a great way to protect your family members and friends and share in the fun and pleasure of owning NFA weapons. If you want a gun trust done right, remember to trust Jerry.
And we are back. Just to fill regular listeners in on what's going on today. Usually I have a guest on, as you know. It's easier for me to play off a guest than it is to just talk to the camera. But today, my regular attorney, Donald J. Green, who most of you remember and know that watch the show, got tangled up in a court case where he had to file some papers online in a Dallas courtroom by 4 o'clock today, and then wait for a response from the court and so on and so on. One of his clients is in some trouble down there with somebody, and so he called me about an hour before showtime and said, "Oh God, I can't make it, Bob." And I called my regular Homeland Security retired guest, Lenny Davis, and his wife is having surgery right now in a minor procedure. So he's over there doing that, and my ex-riding partner, Mike Bunker, retired from Metro PD, is in Europe on a 10-day vacation. So here we are, and I watch newscasters do this all the time, and you know, that's what happened. It's easier to play off with a guest than it is for me to talk just by myself, but here we go. That's what's going on. The second story is KTRK TV reporting also September 18th this year in Houston, Texas. A man was shot after the suspect broke into his home as his family was sleeping. They were sleeping inside the house, obviously, in southwest Houston, according to the police reports. This happened at 1 a.m. On a Tuesday in the 500 block of Loper Street, if you're from Houston. Authorities say the suspect may have announced himself as a police officer before forcing his way into the home. Apparently, he yelled, you know, "Police, open the door, police, open the door." And the guy didn't open the door right away, and then this guy crashed through the door. The family was sleeping at 1 in the morning, no kidding, and the unknown suspect broke in, announced himself as possible police officer, and shots were fired, said Houston Police Department Officer Rick Barharas. I'm reading that correctly, I hope. The suspect and the homeowner shot each other. So we have an armed homeowner. The other suspect was armed also. The homeowner was shot in the hand. He was taken to the hospital. His family saw what happened, but they were not hurt. It's 1 o'clock in the morning. It's not clear if anything was taken. So we don't have a lot of details, again, because this just happened. Police are looking for the shooter. Authorities are investigating if the home invasion was random or he was targeted. He targeted the family for some reason. We don't know that. The home was relatively isolated, and I suspect that was the targeting, because they found no criminal things with the family at all. That's what you look to first is, you know, was this a dope house or something? And apparently that was not the case from what we know so far. The report states the intruder and his intended victim shot each other, which indicates the intruder was armed. As he was trying to enter, the intruder announced that he was the police, a common ruse to enter homes nowadays. If that happens to you, respond by saying that you are armed and demand to have a uniformed officer present. He will present himself at the door. All police departments' real raids are always accompanied or led by uniformed officers just to prevent that. There will be an officer, actually a uniformed guy, make the first entry before the detectives, who aren't wearing all the stuff they might need, tear gas and nightsticks, enter. Usually the uniformed officers enter first. And what this brought up to me is you want to do realize the same thing on traffic stops. We've had a number of incidents here in Southern Nevada where we have fake police officers. They drive usually plain cars, but they'll have spotlights on them or whatever. And occasionally, we had one guy they just arrested here that had put blue lights in his turn signals so he could flash blue lights. They put Kojak lights on the dashboard and so forth. If you are pulled over by somebody like that, particularly if you didn't do anything wrong in traffic. Now, it may be your license plate is smudged or missing or something. The police have a lot of reasons to pull you over. And you don't think it's a real police officer, continue driving at low speed, like 2 miles an hour, just enough to keep him from jumping out and running up to your car, and wait till a marked unit shows up. The officer will realize what's going on, why you're not pulling over and you're just crawling along, because that's to tell him you're not going to pull over because he doesn't believe you're a real cop. So if you want to speed up that process, you can call 911 on your cell phone and get the dispatcher and say, I'm on such and such a street, I'm being pulled over by a plainclothes unit or what purports to be a police officer. I would like to have a marked unit show up so I know this is really the cops. They will do that. Like I say, it happens all the time, and it keeps you safe. There will be a uniform officer with any legitimate raiding party at your house. There will be a uniformed patrol car or uniform marked car available. If you want one, just call 911 and say, I think I got a fake cop here. If you can't get one, you can drive other places where they would, a fake cop wouldn't follow you in. In Las Vegas here, we have casinos open all over the town that are open 24/7 with valet parking. You can certainly pull into one of those. And if it's a real cop, he'll follow you in. If it ain't a real cop, he'll leave. But they'll understand what's going on because we've had these instances, I said. So we're going to stop here for just a moment. And then I got a really neat story coming up I know you're going to have fun with. So we will be back in just a minute. Don't go away. Hi, I'm Bob Irwin, and I get to do my own commercial. The short version is I've had 50 years experience in firearms, firearm repair, firearm design, 30,000 CCW holders I personally taught, 20,000 security officers, etc. Taught in 28 police academies, firearms and use force. I've also appeared more than 200 times in gun-related cases in federal, state, and local court. I wrote this book, The Reality of Armed Self-Defense, because it answers virtually all the questions that I get every time I talk to people, answers questions that come in the emails. It will tell you what you need to know to keep yourself out of prison if you get involved in a self-defense shooting case, keep from losing your house in a civil lawsuit. There are lots of things I've learned over these years and watched people make a lot of mistakes. This book will save you a lot. If you purchase one, read through it, I'm sure you will find it enlightening. And it'll save me a lot of time on these shows trying to explain to people what they did wrong and what they shouldn't have done and so forth and so on. So you can buy it by sending me the funds at the address below, bob@firedupmail.com, or leave a message on my phone number there, which is 702-257-1060. I will return your calls and tell you where to mail the money and so forth and so on. They're available on my website also, which is attached to this regular show. Cost is $15. I said add for postage if you live outside the immediate 50 states. And I will get it to you first class mail. Thank you for listening. This book will save you a lot of hassle. Thanks. Hey, we're back. I was on twice there for just a moment. We're learning how to work this, and this is kind of fun. This story is just, well, it'll be self-explanatory. This is from the Jackson Sun. It's in Morgan County, Tennessee, not Jackson anywhere else. It's the Jackson Sun is in Tennessee, in Morgan County. It's part of USA Today network. A man was fatally shot by a 12-year-old boy during a domestic dispute with his wife in what authorities say appeared to be a justified case of child defending his mother. The deceased man, age 56, was shot twice, including once in the chest, with a Ruger 44 Magnum lever-action rifle late Saturday night at a home in the Deer Lodge community. That's an area, I presume, of that county. According to a news release by the 9th District Attorney General Russell Johnson's office. The 9th District Attorney General Russell's office. Okay. A family member who was not present during the shooting called 911 from another residence. Authorities received at least 5 previous calls for service from the home involving domestic violence incidents, none of which resulted in criminal charges, according to the police press release. There seems to be a pattern of domestic abuse here. The shooting remains under investigation by the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and the Morgan County Sheriff's Office. This is, again, a quote from the district attorney. It appears that this is going to be a situation of the juvenile coming to the defense of his mother, who was the victim in this and other instances of domestic violence. This is according to the district attorney's office. He added, the challenge is now deciding how best to ensure the child's well-being going forward. We feel like, quoting him again, we feel like this juvenile suspect needs counseling and services that could be provided by juvenile court if he were charged in juvenile court, but were he an adult, we wouldn't charge him. It's clearly the defense of a third party. These cases are, well, the example here is gun safety with children starts with them being familiar with firearms. That, as we know, takes the curiosity out of the picture that leads to most home accidents involving kids. A child who knows how to operate a firearm, a child who knows how to operate a firearm saves his mother's life. In reading this, I was really working on this ending comment, but I wonder how, when this story gets out, because this happened 2 days ago, the gun control will spin this. I was going to suggest to viewers that letter sent to the Jackson Sun, this newspaper, it's www.jacksonsun, one long word, JacksonSunsun.com, jacksonsun.com. Might help this young hero keep his head on straight. He's going through a lot, and you know it's going to happen in school and so forth. So I would suggest that if it's possible, look up this newspaper's website. It's part of USA Today, the Jackson Sun, S-U-N, and write him a letter to the editor. Maybe start a college fund for this young man, something like that, to show him he did the right thing. We're going to, I think we have one more, do we have one more commercial?
We can show Jerry again.
Oh, that's right. We can do this other bit. Let me see how I'm running on time. Oh, we only got 2 minutes. So, boy, I got 5. Well, according to you, I gave myself 28 minutes because I got to close too. We are, as regular listeners know, we're putting up some merchandise on our website now to give people who are fans of the show an opportunity to buy. We've got T-shirts and coffee cups and some really cool hats and things. I don't want to get too involved in this on the air, but we've got the neatest thing are these Australian type brush hats with our logos on them and so forth. They got a neck protector on the back and so on and so on. T-shirts for the ladies, all sorts of things. I've been showing these at some of the local gun shows. This has become really popular. I was quite surprised. Some fired up T-shirts look nice. And various and sundry things like that are for sale on our website. If you go to firedupwithbob.com or firedupwithboberwin.com, you will see a list. We're still working on the prices because I'm still missing some costs on some of the items, but we are there and we're getting there. I want let me try and scroll down to, we got the, I believe we do have the clothing stuff on here.
Show the
So-
headscarf. Do you have the headscarf?
I do have a headscarf. We have a headscarf. Ah. There's a scarf. There's a do-rag. You tie this on your head.
Yeah.
It's really not my cup of tea, but I was surprised. You know, it has our logos on it, and you can tie it off. I've sold several of them to go to basketball games because the fans seem to like them for some reason. Our team colors aren't orange here, but yeah, whatever. Anyway, thanks for watching Fired Up. Please share these broadcasts with your friends and our sponsors. To become a sponsor, you can drop me a note at the previous things where I was telling you to send a letter to. But mention to our sponsors that you saw it on Fired Up, and we'll be back next Thursday here on YouTube and the Guns and Glory Network. We have one other thing. I thank you so much for listening. This has been really fun. I think I could get used to this stuff. Maybe I'll get rid of all the guests and I'll just be, was that, oh, the studio was cheering for that, the studio audience.
Do you want to remind them where they can hear it this Saturday
Uh,
on the screen?
oh yeah, I'm sorry.
Look at your screen.
Oh, yes. Saturdays we're on radio, the Nevada Talk Network. It's at KELY1230.com. Lists all the stations in Nevada. So there's about 14 or 15 stations now. They all run the show at noon on Saturday. Look up that website and you will be able to tell. And thank you so much for listening. Have a good weekend.